Welcome, everyone, to today's story, The Poor Man Humiliated by His Rich Brother, a twist he never saw coming. This is a completely fictional tale, full of unexpected turns and lessons. Sit back, relax, and let your imagination run wild as we dive in. In a time so ancient that names were carved into stone, not written on paper, there stood a city of baked clay and fading glory. Its walls had watched generations rise and fall, and its markets whispered stories of fortune gained and lost. Within this city lived two brothers whose paths, once side by side, had diverged like the desert from the sea. The elder brother, Narib, was a man known by all. His house rose high above the neighboring roofs, built of polished stone and guarded by iron gates. Merchants bowed when he passed, and servants hurried at the sound of his voice. His immense wealth came from caravans, warehouses, and sharp dealings that left no room for mercy. He wore the finest garments and carried himself as if he owned the very ground beneath his feet. The younger brother, Yamin, lived on the city's edge, where stone gave way to dust. His home was a small, cracked dwelling that barely kept the cold of night at bay. He earned his living repairing broken tools and patching worn baskets. Some days he ate well, but most days he did not. Yet, he was known for his quiet patience and a gaze that held more thought than complaint. They hadn't always lived this way. As boys, they shared the same roof, the same bread, and the same dreams. But when their father passed, leaving behind debts and a failing trade, the brothers chose different paths. Narib chased power at any cost. Yamin sought honesty, even when it cost him everything. Years passed, and wealth flowed to one while it slipped through the fingers of the other. The incident that set everything in motion happened on a dry afternoon in the city square. Yamin was there, carrying a bundle of repaired farming tools, hoping to sell them before sunset. As he waited, dust clung to his clothes, and hunger gnawed at his patience. Just then, a procession entered the square. Drums beat softly as servants cleared a path. At the center walked Narib, surrounded by traders eager for his favor. Yamin lowered his gaze, intending to step aside unnoticed, but it was too late. Someone whispered, and another laughed. Narib stopped. "Well," Narib announced, his voice carrying across the square, "if it isn't my brother." All eyes turned. Yamin felt the heat rise to his face, but he stood still. Narib circled him slowly, examining his worn clothes and calloused hands. "Tell me," he said, smiling without warmth, "is this what wisdom earns a man? A bent back and empty hands?" The crowd murmured. Some smirked, others looked away, embarrassed. Yamin answered calmly, "It earns a living, however small." Narib laughed out loud. "A living? This is barely surviving." He turned to the crowd. "People speak of effort and patience. Yet here is proof that such virtues lead nowhere." Then, with deliberate cruelty, Narib tossed a small coin at Yamin's feet. "Take it," he sneered. "Buy yourself something warm. Winter will not wait for pride." Laughter rippled through the square. Yamin didn't bend to pick up the coin. He met his brother's eyes once, silently, then turned and walked away. The dust swallowed his footsteps, but the humiliation clung to him like a shadow. That night, Yamin sat alone in his home, staring at the cracked wall. The laughter echoed in his mind. For the first time in years, bitterness crept into his thoughts. He began to wonder if patience was just another word for weakness. The very next morning, circumstances shifted. A traveling overseer arrived from a distant region, seeking skilled hands for a massive project beyond the city walls. Many dismissed the work as uncertain and exhausting, but Yamin, with nothing to lose, offered his labor. Days turned into weeks. The work was harsh, but Yamin proved to be steady and thoughtful. He repaired complex mechanisms that others couldn't understand. He found simple solutions where stronger men had failed. Slowly, the overseer began to notice and rely on him. One evening, as the campfires flickered, the overseer spoke to him. "You see paths others overlook," he said. "If you remain, you will oversee the work." Yamin accepted. And just like that, the gears of fate began to turn in a new direction. Thank you for watching. What do you think will happen next? On the surface, Nabed's fortune was booming. His warehouses got bigger, his contracts piled up, but this empire was built on a shaky foundation. In his rush for more, he put his trust in the wrong people. Deals were made in haste, not with care. He hid his losses behind a mask of confidence, a performance for the city to see. The story was reaching its climax. A few months later, word spread like wildfire. A massive trade expedition was coming, promising immense wealth to anyone ready to supply it. Nareb went all in, betting a huge chunk of his fortune on this single venture. He bragged about the profits he was sure to make, his voice echoing in the marketplaces. Yamin, his brother, heard this news only faintly. His own life had changed, but quietly. He was now a respected manager, settling disputes and earning a fair wage. It wasn't the kind of wealth Nareb chased, but it was stable. More importantly, it was respect he had earned, not demanded. Then, the expedition arrived, and with it, utter chaos. Supplies were wrong, routes were blocked, and deals fell apart, one by one. Investors who had been reckless, like Nareb, watched their fortunes evaporate in a matter of days. His debts came calling, and his partners simply vanished. The grand house fell silent, the servants dismissed. Those impressive iron gates were still there, but now they guarded nothing of value. One evening, Nareb found himself standing alone, in the very same market square, where he had once shamed his brother. His expensive clothes were gone, replaced by simple garments, and that's when he saw him. Yamin wasn't alone. Workers greeted him warmly, merchants gave him nods of respect. He had that same calm, steady presence, but now, people saw it, they acknowledged it. Nareb froze. His pride fought with the desperation clawing at his throat. Finally, he took a step forward. "Brother," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Yamin turned. An eternity seemed to pass in that silent moment, filled with the weight of everything that had happened between them. "I wronged you," Nareb finally admitted. "I thought wealth made me better. I see now how fragile that idea was." Yamin looked at him, not with a sense of victory, but with deep understanding. "Life shifts," Yamin said, his voice calm. "It lifts us up and sets us down when we least expect it." Nabez's head dropped. "I have nothing left, no one, nowhere to go." The crowd that had gathered watched, waiting for Yamin to deliver the final blow, to get his revenge. But what happened next was the twist no one saw coming. Yamin didn't gloat. He didn't repay cruelty with cruelty. Instead, he spoke with a quiet strength. "You may work," he said. "There is always work for those willing to put in the effort." Nareb looked up, completely stunned. "This is not a favor," Yamin continued. "It is a beginning. What you build from this moment on is up to you." In that instant, their roles were reversed, not through shame, but through dignity. The story's conclusion wasn't a sudden event, but a slow, gradual dawn. Nareb worked. He struggled. He learned what humility truly meant, the hard way. There were no shortcuts this time. Yamin was his guide, but he taught without arrogance, and corrected without being cruel. Years later, the city remembered the tale of two brothers. One who fell from a great height, and rose again, a changed man, and another who rose steadily, without ever needing to push someone else down. The ancient city walls, which had seen it all, seemed to whisper a timeless lesson. Wealth can build you a palace, but it's character that builds a soul. And our destiny isn't shaped by power, but by how we treat others, especially when there's nothing to gain. The story lived on, a powerful reminder for anyone who cared to listen.